There's a tree that can grow over 15 feet in a single year. Its seeds can power a diesel engine without any modification. The same seeds can clean contaminated water in under 30 minutes. And its leaves contain more nutrients than most foods people eat daily. One tree, food, fuel, and clean water. So here's the real question. If something this powerful exists, why isn't it everywhere? Let's start with what this tree actually is. It's not rare, it's not genetically engineered, and it's not new. This tree has been used for thousands of years. In some parts of the world, it grows wild, unnoticed, unprotected, almost ignored. But in other places, it's considered one of the most valuable plants on Earth because every single part of it can be used. The leaves, the seeds, the pods, even the roots. And unlike most crops, it doesn't demand much in return. Poor soil, it grows. Low rainfall, it survives. Extreme heat, it thrives. This isn't a delicate plant, it's resilient. And that's where things start to get interesting. Most plants specialize. They do one thing well. Some are grown for calories, others for nutrients, others for oil, others for medicine. But this tree doesn't specialize. It multiplies functions. It produces food continuously. It produces oil efficiently. And it contributes to water purification in a way that feels almost unnatural. Not because it breaks the laws of science, but because most people have never seen it used this way. Let's break it down. Start with the leaves. They grow fast, and they grow back even faster. You don't harvest this tree once a year. You harvest it constantly, week after week, month after month. And the nutritional profile? This is where things become difficult to ignore. The leaves contain high levels of protein, calcium, iron, potassium, vitamin A, vitamin C, not in small amounts, in dense concentrations, in some cases, higher than the foods people normally rely on, which means one tree can contribute significantly to daily nutrition, especially in areas where food diversity is limited. Now move to the seeds. This is where the system expands beyond food. Inside each seed, there is oil, not a small amount, a significant amount. When pressed, that oil can be used for cooking, for lighting, and in certain cases, for fuel. And this isn't theoretical. Engines designed for plant-based oils can run on it cleanly, efficiently, without the need for complex refining, which creates a very different kind of possibility. Not large-scale industrial fuel production, but localized energy, small systems, independent use, the kind of output that doesn't rely on massive infrastructure. But the most surprising function is water, because inside those same seeds, there are natural compounds that interact with contaminants. When the seeds are crushed into powder and added to dirty water, something unusual happens. Particles begin to bind together, impurities cluster, bacteria attach to these clusters, and slowly they sink, leaving clearer water behind. It's not magic, it's chemistry, but it feels like magic because it's so simple. No electricity, no complex filtration systems, just a seed, crushed, mixed, and time. Now step back for a moment. We're looking at a single tree that can provide ongoing nutrition, produce usable oil, and assist in water purification, all while growing in conditions that most crops would fail in. So the real question becomes deeper. Not does it work, but why isn't this system everywhere? To understand that, you have to look at how modern systems are built, because modern agriculture is not designed for flexibility. It's designed for scale. Large farms, uniform crops, predictable outputs, mechanized harvesting, standardized distribution. Everything optimized for efficiency at a massive level. And that requires consistency. Single crops, single functions, single outputs. But this tree doesn't behave like that. It doesn't fit into a single category. It doesn't produce one uniform output. It produces multiple things, at different times, in different ways. And that makes it powerful for small systems, but complicated for large ones. Because systems that operate at scale prefer simplicity. One crop, one purpose, one supply chain. Energy systems work the same way. Centralized production, distribution networks, controlled supply, water systems, infrastructure, pipelines. treatment plants, maintenance systems, all built around large-scale control. But this tree operates differently. It doesn't need distribution. It doesn't need processing facilities. It grows where it's planted, produces where it stands, and is used where it exists, which makes it extremely efficient at a local level, but difficult to integrate into large centralized systems. And that's the distinction that matters. Not whether something works, but how it fits into the systems we've built. Because modern systems don't always prioritize resilience, independence, or multifunction efficiency. They prioritize scalability, control, and standardization. Now let's bring this back to something practical. What does one tree actually produce over time? A mature tree can produce hundreds of seed pods each year. Each pod contains multiple seeds. Each seed contains oil, which means over time, you can generate liters of oil from a single tree. Not enough to power a city, but enough to support small-scale needs. Cooking, lighting, limited mechanical use. The leaves? They don't stop. They regenerate continuously, which means food isn't seasonal. It's ongoing. You don't wait for harvest. You create a cycle. Harvest, regrow, harvest again. And then there's the soil, because this tree doesn't just take from the environment. It contributes to it. It improves soil conditions, adds organic matter, supports surrounding growth, which means over time, the system becomes more productive, not less. Now consider where this matters most. Not in places with abundant infrastructure, but in places where systems are limited, where water access is inconsistent, where soil quality is poor, where food variety is low. In those environments, a multifunction system like this becomes extremely valuable, not because it replaces everything, but because it reduces pressure on everything else. And that's exactly where it continues to be used today. In regions where people rely on local systems, where independence matters more than scale, where resilience is more important than efficiency, the tree continues to exist, quietly, without promotion, without heavy integration into global systems. But something interesting has happened in recent years. The tree has started to reappear, not as a system, but as a product. Powdered leaves, capsules, extracts, packaged and sold, focused on one function, nutrition, because that's the easiest part to commercialize, the simplest part to market, the most compatible with existing systems. But when that happens, the bigger picture disappears. The fuel potential isn't discussed, the water purification isn't emphasized. The system gets reduced to a single benefit, and the rest fades into the background. So what we're really looking at is not just a plant, but a design principle, a different way of thinking about production. Instead of asking, what does this plant produce? The better question becomes, how many functions can this system provide? Food, energy, water support, soil improvement, resilience. Because when you design around multiple outputs, you increase efficiency without increasing space. You reduce dependency without reducing production. And you create systems that adapt instead of systems that require constant input. And that shift changes everything. Because now you're not building a garden. You're building a system, not focused on one result, but multiple outcomes happening at the same time. This tree is just one example, but it represents something bigger, a category of solutions that already exist, that don't require invention, only recognition. Because the idea that solutions must be complex or expensive or technologically advanced is not always true. Sometimes they're simple, they've existed for centuries, and they continue to work exactly as they always have. So maybe the real takeaway isn't about this tree specifically. It's about perspective, about asking better questions, looking beyond single-purpose systems, and understanding that efficiency isn't just about output. It's about how many problems you can solve at the same time. Because when a system produces food, supports water, generates usable energy, and improves the environment around it, it stops being just a plant and becomes something else entirely. A system that works quietly, consistently, without needing constant input, without depending on external support. And once you start noticing systems like this, you begin to see them everywhere. Not because they're hidden, but because most people aren't looking for them. And sometimes the most powerful solutions aren't the ones being promoted. They're the ones that have been there all along, growing, producing, waiting to be used.